I was reading just before we came on the latest Creditor Watch report, and it's talking about a three-way squeeze, and that is lower consumer demand, higher borrowing costs or interest costs, which is causing the lower consumer demand, but more importantly, how people are getting paid more slowly. And, I use the expression 14 days has become 30, 30 has become 60, and 60 is now the new 90. In this particular construction company, they had to wait. They had the classic problem of the cash gap, and that is that you pay your staff and buy your raw materials, and your staff are maybe 7 days and your raw materials are 14 to 30, but your customer is paying you 30, 60 or 90 days down the track by the time the work's completed. And that leaves that rather big gap in between. And we were able to introduce a debtor finance program that basically brought forward the cash that the business was owed. And what sort of effect do you think that's had on the business now?
Oh, it's been a real game changer, because it is, as you say, Martin, that classic case where this particular construction client was basically a large subcontractor to the actual project manager. A little bit down the pecking order, I suppose. So the project manager, designer, head contractor would be invoicing their client, waiting to get paid. We would invoice our client, and you're forever sort of at the bottom begging for money, which just took up an inordinate amount of management time. So rather than spending time building the business, most of my conversations with this client were about who's going to pay when, making payroll, managing your BAS, your PAYG, your super, and all this for a fundamentally profitable company. If I look at the bottom line, they'll probably make 500K this year profit for a, owner-operator business, which is quite good when all that money goes to him. But again, when he looked into his bank account, the money just wasn't there because it was in the bank account of his client.
There are thousands of business owners having sleepless nights right now because they just don't have the liquidity they need. And some of their major clients are paying them no longer at 30, they're paying at 60. And that all of a sudden leaves a full month of cash gap that they have to deal with. And it's something that, it's not just an economic cost, it's an emotional cost of dealing with the stress. All of a sudden, when you've got liquidity, you sleep better at night because you're not worried about making payroll tomorrow or fixing up that supply bill.
Oh, absolutely. And just literally the time spent, managing, daily, weekly and monthly cash flow was just inordinate. So now to know that, okay, yes, we understand there's a PAYG or a BAS bill coming up, but we know that we're doing the work, we're generating the invoices, and the invoice facility can be drawn down to fund that, rather than, what a lot of businesses unfortunately also have to do is relying on a payment plan with the ATO. So to be able to move away from that was a huge benefit, and, the risk of DPNs and, other things affecting your personal credit rating, even when you're profitable.
Yeah, the ATO is often reporting defaults in relation to tax payments on people like Creditor Watch, and that it's almost a double-edged sword, because when you look and say, oh, look, I can implement these things to fund the business, and that way we can increase our liquidity, we can service our tax arrears and bring things back in line. But whether it be a bank, a lending institution or one of the fintechs, when they see that the tax department has defaulted them for $100,000 in outstanding tax, all of a sudden that changes the credit score and changes the attitude of risk. It was always there, and the lender knew about it, but now everybody knows about it. So that means the suppliers know about it and they want to shorten terms that they provide, which further increases your cash gap. And it's an awkward circle. So I talk to people a lot about ATO issues, and basically getting into a plan or getting it paid off ASAP is going to make running your business so much easier. And it basically gives you a competitive advantage. If you've managed your tax, you're unlike the rest who haven't. Because when the supplier looks and does a credit check on you, it's going to see, I call it clean skin. Everything looks all right there. There's no defaults or whatever. And there's your competitor, and they've had 2 tax defaults and a supplier payment default. And which one's going to get the better terms? Better terms means you don't have as much liquidity problem in your business. So running a clean and healthy business is about keeping those things under control.
Absolutely. And I think, it's something that's probably not front of mind, this manner of financing. So people didn't quite understand it. So the solution that we ended up with has been quite good, because they've been very good at sort of hand-holding and explaining how the portal works and the platform and drawing down money, good transparency on the fees. And, they've been, the communication's been excellent. Whereas, in a lot of the other financing options, it's not so good. And being able to use, what is one of the only assets in the business, which is accounts receivable, to finance your business is a great way to look at it, when, again, this business is not capital intensive. And other than, using the family home, which also has, complications, it's just a really easy, clean way of financing. And it's, it's probably something that you would know has been around for, I don't know, decades, centuries, but the modern platforms have just made it a lot easier to manage. Because, in my previous experience, it was the paperwork of invoicing, factoring that was difficult. But now the fintech side of it has really made it quite simple and transparent.
Yeah, and look, unfortunately, it sort of has some negative connotations in the community, that word factoring. But that's why I use the term invoice financing, because, yes, we are technically borrowing, but we're borrowing against the money we're owed. Yeah, it's not like creating new debt on the balance sheet. We're just bringing forward the money that our customers owe us. And particularly when customers are getting slower at paying, it's a very effective tool, and it's something that I'm seeing a lot more happening with. And there are some new products that are coming on the market where they use AI to look just at your Xero or Myo balance, and will basically give you a credit limit based on that without doing all the invoice swapping around. They're a little bit fussy about their credit criteria, but there are some incredibly versatile new tools that are available with the introduction of AI to the market, which you and I are talking about AI early next month, and I'm about to send out the invitations.
Terrific. Well, I was wondering if you're going to make that segue, Martin. Thank you very much. Yes,
No.
we're pulling together a little dog and pony show for the two of us. So
Yes.
that will be interesting. And I'm talking to some of the people that I'm inviting. Yeah, this whole notion of how AI is being used to evaluate their credit score, and it's not just the old, "I'll send me a link to your bank statements," and your Xero is going to be quite interesting for people. Because it's no longer, unfortunately, relationships. It is, computer says yes, computer says no. So you've got to play the game.